I have full-blown AIDS. I was very seriously ill in November. They didn't think I was going to make it. And I was put on one of the cocktails, the non-nucleoside transcriptors, they're called. They're the very newest drugs. And I've gone from strength to strength since then.
Just November?
November, yes, last November. I was down to 100 pounds. And I had 4 days where they really didn't think I was going to make it. I was diagnosed negative 7 years ago, and I felt so strongly that I was positive. I didn't do anything more about it, but I got high fevers periodically. I got a lot of the peripheral illnesses and so on for 7 years. And then 2 years ago, I got PCP. And my T-cell count was at 80, and my viral load was at 80,000 at that point. So it explained why I wasn't feeling so well. I've had a very, variable sort of life, very exciting life, and very enjoyable life. And I think in a lot of ways, because my lifestyle was around a lot of clubs and bars and so on, I was a DJ, that it would have surprised me more if I hadn't had AIDS, to be honest. Not that I sought it, but most of my friends had it. And I've lost a lot of friends to the disease. I think my feelings have got increased anger at the fact that the general communities seem to think that it's no longer a problem, and it still is a very large problem. I mean, the fastest growing part of the communities are the heterosexual community and and women. And I think a lot of people still think of it as a gay disease, which I think is very, very bad educationally. And that angers me. I certainly don't think that the governments do enough to help the disease. And I also feel the drug companies are making so much money with all these drugs that probably they won't ever find a cure, which is a little bit of a pessimistic view. But so hopefully there'll be some scientist somewhere around that will persevere and find a cure eventually. But none of us know the full impact of these very toxic drugs that we take that are keeping us alive at the moment. None of us know the long-term effects of them. I didn't want to look at my life taking pills for the rest of my life, basically. I'm 57 years old, and I've had a great life. And if I'd been younger, I might have had a different attitude. So I slowly went downhill very rapidly for those 2 years. And then I had so much pressure I have 3 adult children. I had so much pressure from family and friends and every other person I met who said, you must go on the cocktail, you must go on the cocktail. So eventually I decided I'd go on it. It's worked remarkably for me. I started to gain weight within 2 weeks of going on the cocktail. I had great problems actually swallowing the tablets physically to start with. I had to crush them and put them with chocolate pudding, which was the only way I could absorb them. But I persevered. I felt if I was going to go on the cocktail, there was no point in not being totally committed to doing it properly. I became a client with APLA about 2 years ago. A friend of mine, when he knew I was ill, he'd already lost a lover to AIDS. He said, you must go and register with APLA, which I did. I was given a case manager who's been absolutely marvellous. I had wonderful treatment from the dental clinic. I've got completely new teeth, both top and bottom, which is courtesy of APLA, and I couldn't have been given better treatment. I also come to a support group here, which I find very necessary. I found it very difficult being very near death at dealing with facing life and reality. And the support group has made all the difference. And they offer the most incredible facilities here. They really do. It's a great help. I had never realised. I've always been a very independent person. And it took a lot for me to actually say, yes, I'll go to a support group. But I absolutely rely on them. And the people I've met here, as I said, I can't fault any of them. I really can't. They've all been wonderfully kind. There's an atmosphere of total support. When you come in the building, you can feel it. I don't know if you have AIDS in any other city in the world that you'd get as good treatment as you do in Los Angeles and APLA. I think if you find you have AIDS, you've got to decide to live day by day. You can't take it back, unfortunately. It's not a thing you can say, oh, I wish I'd done this or I wish I'd done that. And you have to go from day to day. I've never felt any anger over it or anything like that because, as I said, I've had a great life, and I'm a great believer in you lead your life yourself and you make decisions yourself, and you may make wrong decisions, but you are the only one responsible for your life. So that's the key question. So you have no one to blame, really. You can't blame other people even, I don't think. I think knowing that you're not going to get rid of it, it really, I mean, it is still a terminal illness. You know that at some point the medication's not going to work. Side effects will set in, and basically you get resistant to the drugs, and then they switch you to another group and they work for a little while. And so at some point, you know, you become rather fatalistic. I find myself not planning too much for the future at all, and not that I ever did. I always tended to live for the day. But it seems pointless for me to gather more books in my house now, or more videotapes, because I don't feel I'll be around to really enjoy them. So I tend to be a little bit pessimistic about the future. Now, I may go on for several years, we don't know. None of us know this, but it alters your whole attitude to life, and I've had to change my lifestyle completely. As I said, I was a DJ, and the hours were very late. I would start late at night and go on to the morning, and that would interfere totally with my medication taking now, so I can't really go back to that, although it was a job I was passionate, so I've had to absolutely reinvent my life, basically. So I'm doing a little bit of work on computers and typing and so on, and keeping very busy, going to an awful lot of movies, and coming to support groups. And I also help at Project Angel Food once a week. So I keep busy, which is the key. Don't give yourself time to think too much. It's been very, very difficult financially for me. I've had great support from APLA again. I've had friends who've been wonderful. I had 2 benefits given for me by some friends when I was at my worst, just before November, when I was so ill. I belonged to the Los Angeles Pool League, and they held a couple of benefits and raised money for me then, which was wonderful. I had a friend I hadn't seen for 35 years in England send me a $1,000 check out of the blue. So I've been incredibly lucky. I really have. But it is tough, because you do worry. I've got a little cottage for which I pay relatively low rent in this area, which I've had for 4 years, and I gardened there and put roses up and made it absolutely idyllic. I did a complete renovation when I moved in 4 years ago, and I don't want to lose it because it's very precious to me.
It's planning for the future.
Yes, a little bit. Actually, the interesting thing is I found myself renewing a magazine subscription for a year, so I guess I don't think...
You seem to be doing very well.
No, I am. Physically, I am. I'm stronger than I was a year ago.
Do you have bad days?
I have days where I don't feel so good. Physically, I think I'm fortunate, because some people have great side effects on the medication. I haven't had any. I've had difficulty actually taking the tablets. And there are a lot of other things. They're questioning a mammogram I had now. So if I have breast cancer, that's not uncommon. A lot of people with HIV have a form of cancer. So that's something that doesn't worry me. I can deal with facts and figures. Having AIDS or being very sick never upset me. I get emotionally very brought down, because I don't feel I can be the person I really want to be since I've had AIDS. I can't do everything I want to do, as I've always been so active. My family, I've got 2 boys and a girl, all adult, 2 of them married, 1 nearly married, and 1 grandchild. And they came and saw me a lot last year because I was ill. And they're totally supportive of any decision I made, whether I was on the meds or not. They're now very glad I've gone on the meds, of course. And I brought my son here to APLA, in fact, and introduced them to the dental clinic, because I wanted them to meet some of my family. My father, who's 81, has been totally supportive. My mother died a long time ago. And my sister and my brother were both very supportive. I think I'm luckier than most. I've had such a lot of support from all my family. So a lot of people don't have family with them at all on this issue. And that keeps me going. I've been very lucky with the support I've had. It's the only thing that keeps you going, because in the end that's all you have. All your people around you. Doesn't matter what you've got materially. Future I'm very nervous thinking about, because I'm not sure where I'm going to be. Future in terms of AIDS, as I said, I have an issue with the drug companies, because I feel they're making so much money out of us all. And there are an awful lot of people in Middle America who can't get the medication they need, which is scandalous. And that's why we need organisations that are going to raise public interest and make everybody realise that it's not a dying disease. The medication is keeping people alive a few more years, but it's not taking the disease away. So it shouldn't be forgotten. And I think we've just got to make the general public and the government much more aware of the fact that it's an ongoing disease. It's still a major problem. People aren't dying as quickly, that's all. I'm the only woman in one support group. There's a predominantly gay support group with LA Shanty, and they're wonderful, really wonderful group. The other group is APLA, heterosexual support group, and there are in fact 2 other women, but we're all totally different, very different backgrounds. But everybody has so many things that are similar, if not identical, in their path along with this disease. Depression plays a large part, which is something I've gone through quite recently, and everybody else seems to have been through it at some point. It's not so much about the disease, but it's about yourself and your lifestyle. And the fact that once you have AIDS and you've been ill, your whole life becomes about the disease to a very large extent, because visits to the doctor, taking the medication, and so on. It's very difficult to lead any sort of normal existence or an existence that you had before. It's almost impossible. So, but something will happen. Something will happen. I'm not sure what, that's all.